While other children were beginning their studies, Allmark's admission to the academy was set back by 2 years. This delay was due to his involvement in the brutal conflicts of the North. Allmark, a young boy, was already acquainted with the grim realities of the battlefield. He was forced to navigate a world stained by bloodshed. Allmark, a stark contrast to the life of an ordinary child, knelt amidst the aftermath. His destiny was intertwined with the harsh northern lands, for he was the son of a mercenary. In the south, peace had reigned for over a century, but the north remained a land of unending war. Countless lives were lost as nations clashed. This turmoil made it a gathering place for mercenaries seeking fortune and conflict. Among these soldiers of fortune was Allmark's father, Reyes. Young Allmark quietly observed them. After what seemed like another harsh engagement, Captain Gels suggested to Reyes that they head home. Reyes served alongside Captain Gels as the vice-captain of the Black Wolf Cavalry, a formidable military unit, with Allmark often nearby. Allmark remembered his first encounter with Jorg, which occurred when he was merely 5 years old. Jorg had thanked young Allmark for his assistance. Mercenary life was transient, with warriors constantly shifting allegiances and battlegrounds. During that period, the Black Wolf Cavalry patrolled the volatile buffer zone contested by the Falan Kingdom and the Kingdom of Gilbar. While on a reconnaissance mission, the landscape appeared deceptively tranquil. Captain Gels casually remarked on its peacefulness. Reyes, ever vigilant, sharply reminded him that this was a serious mission and to stay alert. Their attention was then drawn to a commotion, and upon seeing men being attacked, Reyes ordered his soldiers to intervene. They discovered Jorg desperately trying to convince his assailants that he possessed no gold. The bandits, skeptical due to Jorg's well-dressed appearance, dismissed his pleas as lies. Reyes surveyed the scene, noting a large band of about 30 attackers, a mix of fallen mercenaries and bandits. As Captain Gels observed, it was too many for one man to face. Reyes, aware of intelligence placing the Gilbar army nearby, decided his unit should swiftly disperse the bandits and scout further ahead. His men, including Allmark, prepared to move. Meanwhile, the bandits managed to capture Jorg, taunting him about his age. One bandit noted Jorg's fine attire, vowing to keep his clothes clean of blood. As a bandit prepared to strike the captured Jorg, Reyes charged into the fray on horseback, cutting down the assailant. Captain Gels quickly followed, dispatching another. The sudden and fierce arrival of the mercenaries left the remaining bandits stunned and bewildered, questioning their presence. After neutralizing the immediate threat, Reyes sheathed his bloodied sword. Captain Gels inquired if the rest of the bandits had escaped. Jorg gratefully thanked Reyes for the rescue from the dangerous situation. Reyes cautioned Jorg that the area was perilous and would soon become a battlefield, making it unsafe to travel alone, a warning Jorg acknowledged. Reyes then turned his attention to his own men, sternly ordering them to cease scavenging from the dead and prepare to move. He somberly noted to Captain Gels and another soldier that they had lost Wanner in the skirmish. Despite this loss, Reyes resolved to push forward, emphasizing the strategic advantage of sighting the Gilbar army. As his unit readied to depart, Reyes signaled his men to prepare. Reyes approached Jorg with an offer. He advised the old man that their main unit would soon arrive, and suggested that if Jorg wished to avoid traveling alone, he should mention Reyes' name to get a place on their carriage for safety. Jorg, taken aback, questioned if such an arrangement was permissible. Reyes reassured him, stating that their caravan included women and children, and they could travel together towards the border. With a final goodbye, Reyes and his reconnaissance party rode off. Jorg watched their departure, remarking that they had indeed gone. At the Black Wolf Cavalry camp, Reyes appeared weary from their recent endeavors. A younger soldier observed Reyes' fatigue and mentioned the disappointing news that there had been no sign of Gilba's army. Reyes affirmed their ongoing mission, to continue their advance and secure the supply line for the Falan army. Just then, a woman approached, calling out to Reyes with urgent news. The woman informed Reyes that she had picked up a peculiar old man who claimed to be an acquaintance of his. Reyes, recognizing the description, confirmed the man was indeed someone he knew and inquired about his whereabouts. The woman directed him towards a carriage in the distance. Thanking her, Reyes set off to meet the old man. Reyes found Jorg, the old man, sitting by a carriage. Approaching him, Reyes offered a bowl of soup, remarking that it had been some time since they last met. Jorg accepted the warm soup with gratitude, thanking Reyes for his consideration. While they shared the soup, Jorg formally introduced himself and expressed his profound thanks to Reyes for saving his life earlier. Reyes, in turn, introduced himself as the vice-captain of their unit. Deeply moved by Reyes' actions, Jorg stated his wish to find a way to express his gratitude. Reyes chuckled at Jorg's offer, questioning what an old man like him could possibly do. Jorg then made a startling revelation. He was the headmaster of the Nork Magic Academy in the Garai Kingdom, a prominent southern nation. He explained he was currently on a journey to find talented children. Reyes initially dismissed this as a joke. Jorg calmly acknowledged his skepticism. To demonstrate his abilities despite having lost his staff, Jorg performed a small feat of magic. He transformed an ordinary object in his hand into a luminous bird, which then gracefully took flight. Reyes watched this display, his eyes wide with astonishment. Visibly stunned and now convinced of Jorg's claim, Reyes muttered in disbelief. He recalled hearing about the Nork Magic Academy, a place renowned for valuing magical talent above all else. It offered equal educational opportunities and guaranteeing successful careers for its graduates. Turning to Jorg, Reyes sought confirmation. Was he truly the headmaster of such an esteemed institution? Jorg simply affirmed that he was. Jorg then elaborated on the academy, using a stick to sketch details in the dirt. He explained that children could enroll starting at the age of 9. They would undergo a 6-year educational program divided into elementary and middle divisions, all while living on Nork Island within the Garai Kingdom. Reyes listened intently as Jorg added that upon completing these 6 years, students became magicians, with the further option of specializing in a specific field through a 3-year advanced division. After absorbing the information, Reyes looked serious. He asked Jorg to confirm his understanding. The academy was exclusively for those possessing talent. When Jorg affirmed this, Reyes paused, then gravely stated he wished to discuss his son. Reyes began to speak about his son, Allmark, who would soon turn 5. He revealed the painful truth that Allmark's mother had passed away shortly after his birth. Reyes confessed that he had raised Allmark alone but worried deeply for him. The boy was too timid and lacked the ambition necessary to survive. He described the brutal life of a mercenary, a world where one could only rely on oneself. With a heavy heart, Reyes expressed his certainty that Allmark would not survive past 15 if he were to become a mercenary. He also acknowledged with evident distress that Allmark showed no aptitude for magic. His hope was that if Allmark could live in the peaceful south, he would be spared from battles. He could live his life as he wished, a sentiment Jorg listened to with quiet understanding. In a desperate plea, Reyes bowed deeply before Jorg, imploring him to allow Allmark entry into his academy. Jorg, taken completely by surprise by this fervent request from the proud vice-captain, could only stare in stunned silence. Jorg remarked to himself how peculiar the situation had become. Jorg gently pointed out the irony of the situation. He, the one who had been saved, was now receiving a deep bow from his rescuer. Reyes looked up startled. Jorg then expressed a simple desire. Before making any decisions, he wished to meet Allmark first. Later, amidst the bustling camp activities, Jorg spotted young Allmark sitting quietly by a bonfire and pointed him out to Reyes. Reyes then called out his son's name, and Allmark, surprised, looked up from his meal. Allmark, holding his bowl, brightened upon seeing his father. He ran to greet him warmly. When Jorg kindly attempted to introduce himself, Allmark became shy and quickly hid behind Reyes. Reyes gently tried to reassure his son that Jorg was a good person. Reyes chided him lightly for his timidity before explaining to Jorg that Allmark was just shy. Jorg observed Allmark thoughtfully, commenting on his apparent intelligence and how his caution was likely a sign of it. Allmark mumbled an apology. Reyes gently encouraged Allmark. Jorg then smiled, reassuring the boy that he would be fine. Jorg extended a hand towards him. This sudden gesture, however, caused Allmark to recoil in wide-eyed fear. Reyes urged a terrified Allmark forward. Allmark was visibly frightened by the situation. As Jorg gently placed a hand on Allmark's head, the boy remained apprehensive. A sudden surge of understanding seemed to pass through the old man. Jorg was left visibly astonished by what he perceived. Jorg expressed his shock. He admitted that while he had encountered many talented children, Allmark's potential was unprecedented. Reyes was overjoyed by this revelation. He praised Allmark, ruffling his hair affectionately. Reyes envisioned his son's talent with the sword blooming early. Jorg agreed, foreseeing Allmark's success as a mercenary. However, Reyes countered that swordsmanship wasn't the most crucial skill. Allmark looked on, puzzled by the turn in conversation. Reyes recalled a lesson about the importance of strong mental fortitude for survival in military operations, a quality he perhaps doubted Allmark possessed, considering it more vital than raw strength. Jorg understood and instructed Reyes to bring Allmark to the academy at the age of 9, promising to provide directions. He confidently predicted Allmark would become an excellent magician. Reyes, relieved, confirmed he would bring him. Reyes embraced Allmark with gladness. Near the border, Jorg thanked Reyes for his help. Jorg also told Allmark he looked forward to seeing him in 4 years. Allmark appeared a little surprised by Jorg's words. Reyes deflected the thanks, saying he was the one who had been helped, and bid Jorg farewell. The old man departed on his journey. Several years passed. As Jorg had foreseen, Allmark pursued swordsmanship. Though Reyes did not actively teach him, Allmark trained diligently with the large sword his father no longer used. Allmark's quiet and shy nature persisted, but as he grew, his eyes gained a strong, clear light of reason. Reyes observed his son's training. One day when Allmark was 8, an incident occurred while the main force of men, including Reyes, was away battling the Morrisville cavalry knights. The women were left behind at the camp. Suddenly, chaos erupted as people screamed and urged others to run. 2 enemy soldiers had infiltrated and attacked the main base. They were formidable warriors, and 5 people were quickly killed. The enemy soldiers gloated, believing their efforts worthwhile, as the main base of the Black Wolf Cavalry Corps would be nothing without its main force. Someone cried out for help in the distance. As one of them declared that no one would come to help their captives, Allmark suddenly intervened, swinging his large sword. The curly-haired attacker was caught off guard by Allmark's sudden appearance. He cried out in surprise. Allmark's strike disarmed the soldier, severing his hand. The soldier stared in disbelief and pain at the young boy he had underestimated. The battle against the Morrisville cavalry knights ended in a draw. Upon returning with an injured hand, Reyes heard about Allmark's bravery from the women. Jeed suggested it was fine and that Allmark should experience the battlefield, while Reyes pondered Allmark's situation. Reyes felt Allmark was too young, only 8, despite Jeed's comment that by 12, one is a full-fledged warrior. Jeed questioned Reyes' hesitation, arguing that if Allmark could fight, he should be on the battlefield. Reyes remained silent and contemplative. Just then, Allmark entered their tent, welcoming his father home and asking if he was injured. Jeed enthusiastically greeted Allmark, praising his amazing feat of taking down the attackers. Allmark acknowledged the praise. Allmark looked towards his father. Reyes then addressed his son, proposing that Allmark try his hand on the battlefield when spring arrived. Allmark, after a moment of surprise, agreed with determination. Reyes confirmed that the matter was settled. Winter passed and spring arrived. This new season also marked Allmark's 9th birthday. The mercenary situation grew more dire with each passing day. Reyes felt he could not abandon them in such a state. Consequently, instead of attending the Nork Magic Academy's entrance ceremony as planned, Allmark found himself with his father. He made his debut on the battlefield. Allmark's second battle was a losing one. Instead of the scholarly life Jorg envisioned for him, he shed his blood on the battlefield. Throughout numerous small skirmishes and 5 major battles, summer arrived. Allmark continued to fight. Allmark, now recognized as a full-fledged warrior, stood ready, acknowledging his father's words with a simple "Yes, father." Reyes instructed Allmark, "Once you change, come to the tent, all right." However, Reyes did not give up on his son's enrollment in the Magic Academy. On days without battles, Reyes would call his son Allmark and teach him. He taught him everything he knew, ranging from reading and writing to numerical calculations. Reyes also imparted his own morals to Allmark. Allmark absorbed all these lessons, just as he had with the sword techniques. Apart from his academic learning, Allmark continued to wield the sword diligently, though Reyes didn't feel entirely happy about it. However, Reyes did not show his discontent. And so, the summer of Allmark's 9th birthday passed. For Reyes, it was quite uneventful. One day, as Reyes watched over Allmark, an incident occurred. In a fierce battle, Reyes cried out in agony as he was stabbed. His opponent was Anezel, the ace of the heavily armored corps known as Lamp's Pride. Allmark was stabbed through the chest by a spear and nearly lost his life. Luckily, he managed to survive, however. For over a month, he was unable to even get up. Reyes looked on with concern after his recovery. Reyes informed a shocked Allmark, "Tomorrow you will leave this place." Allmark, still recovering from his own injuries, was taken aback. Allmark declared, "I will fight alongside father," but Reyes immediately called him an idiot. Reyes continued, "If you are there, you will only be a hindrance." Allmark clenched his fist, hurt by his father's words. Allmark defiantly declared, "I will become stronger." Reyes, however, responded, "It's too late now." He explained, "We are heading to the kingdom of Bastia. From now on, we will be fighting in even fiercer battles." Reyes sternly added, "You won't survive in your current state." Allmark listened silently, the weight of his father's words evident. Reyes looked at Allmark intently, stating, "You can become great." He urged his son, "Listen carefully." Reyes continued his counsel, explaining, "Being a mercenary is an unprofitable business." He elaborated that while there are stories of foot soldiers becoming knights, most are fake and everyone gets taken advantage of. Reyes concluded this somber warning, once they no longer have any use, they're discarded in the end. Reyes advised, to avoid that, it's not enough to just have a sword, use your head, Allmark. He instructed Allmark to figure out what to do and how. Reyes emphasized, "Try thinking for yourself without relying on me." Allmark listened, deeply moved as his father continued, "Don't just become great through studies, become great through actions." Reyes passionately concluded, "Move the hearts of many people." Allmark took a moment, then wiped his trousers. He turned to his father and firmly responded, "I got it, father." Reyes, visibly moved, simply said thanks. He acknowledged Allmark as such an understanding child. Reyes instructed Allmark, "Say goodbye to everyone." Allmark approached a boy with dark, spiky hair and a young girl with light hair, who were surprised by his presence and news. The boy encouraged Allmark, "Stay strong, Allmark. The next time we meet, I'll be a warrior too." The girl added, "Don't forget about me, Allmark." Allmark, touched by their words, responded, "Yeah, I won't forget, thank you both." 2 men from the cavalry offered their farewells, one telling Allmark, "Be careful tomorrow," and the other reminding him, "You are a member of our Black Wolf cavalry, be proud." Another man humorously advised, "Don't pick up strange things and get a stomachache," while a more serious companion added, "Don't make Garba sad." The group, including their leader Gels, the calm Morgard, skilled Gador, and Garba's father Jizek, wished him well. Everyone patted Allmark's shoulder and prayed for a safe journey, to which Allmark gratefully responded, "Thank you." Allmark called out to an older man, Derek. Derek turned, acknowledging Allmark with a hymn. Derek smiled warmly at the young boy. Allmark approached him, a serious expression on his face. Derek gently took Allmark's hand, offering comfort. He reassured Allmark, "Don't worry, no matter where you go, you're Reyes' child, you'll do just fine." Memories of shared moments flashed through Allmark's mind as he prepared to depart. Reyes approached Allmark, who was looking out at the landscape. Reyes asked, "Is that all your luggage?" Allmark affirmed, "Yeah, it's more than enough." Reyes declared with pride, "You're already a full-fledged warrior, I'm not worried at all." Reyes began, but something can always happen. He presented Allmark with a dark, oval-shaped pendant on a chain. Allmark recognized it, saying, "My mother's, it's a memento from Shetina." Reyes confirmed, "That's right." Reyes placed the memento in Allmark's hands, saying, "No matter what happens, this will protect you." Allmark clutched the necklace, responding with a heartfelt, "Thank you." He then announced, "I'm going now, please take care of yourself too, father." Reyes watched Allmark depart, responding with a simple, "Ah." Allmark waved as he walked away, calling out, "Take care of yourself." Allmark continued further up the pass. He disappeared over the crest of the hill. With the necklace his father gave him around his neck, Allmark paused and quietly said, "Goodbye, father." And this was the final goodbye of this parent and child. To reach Nork Magic Academy, Allmark embarked on a perilous journey, needing to pass through the dangerous northern lands, cross the central continental region known as the Midlands, and venture even further south. The solitude and harshness of the northern lands, transitioning from autumn to winter, were especially difficult for the 9-year-old Allmark. He faced hunger and cold. He also faced monsters. Additionally, Allmark encountered humans with malicious intent. In the north, everything was an enemy to Allmark, and he nearly lost his life multiple times, escaping each dire situation with his exceptional sword skills and luck. At times, he was taken in by other traveling knights. At other times, he traveled alongside warriors and magicians. However, he realized that about 80% of the people he relied on betrayed him, and with a broken heart, Allmark learned how to distinguish those he can trust from those he cannot. Allmark had somehow survived the harsh winter in the north, and by the time he crossed the Manoba Strait, which separates the northern continent from the Central Plains, it was already spring season. The Central Plains were a prosperous land, free from the war. It was a fresh sensation for Allmark, who was born and raised in the north. He reflected on this peaceful life, a life without war. Allmark approached a vendor asking to purchase some food. When asked where he was from, Allmark replied, "The north." The vendors were surprised, asking if he came all the way from the north alone. The woman, finding it amazing, decided to give him a bit extra. Allmark, touched by her kindness, thanked her. At an inn, Allmark unpacked the food he received. As autumn arrived, Allmark, now 10 years old, continued his journey. He thought about how kind the people were, and mused that it was the first time he felt traveling was fun, wondering if all countries without war were like this. By the time Allmark arrived at the Continental Trade Department, he had run out of money. So he continued his journey, looking like a rag. Winter in the south arrived, and Allmark slept outdoors every day by a fire. He found that winter in the south was not much different from the north. While gazing at the night sky, he learned how to have a dialogue with himself. The seasons changed and spring arrived. A man called out Allmark, "Next, carry this." Though Nork Island was just across the sea, Allmark responded with a determined yes. He worked at the port for a month to earn the fare. Finally, his long trek was over. Allmark safely arrived at Nork Island. He asked a passing woman, "Excuse me, do you know where the Nork Academy of Magic is?" The woman replied that if he went straight down the road, he would get there. She added that more than a third of the island was academy grounds, leaving Allmark shocked by its size. The woman waved goodbye as Allmark set off. Suddenly, an impressive tower appeared before him, and he wondered what it was. He quickened his pace towards it. Allmark stopped, awestruck by the sight. Allmark wondered where the main gate could be. A realization dawned on him as he approached. He stood dwarfed before an enormous gate, exclaiming in his mind, "This itself is the main gate." Allmark shouted at the gate, "Excuse me, is anyone here?" A guard appeared, asking who it was. Allmark stated his name, explaining he came from the north. The guard looked surprised when Allmark mentioned he needed to see the headmaster. The guard dismissively said the headmaster was not there. He grumbled about brats like Allmark. Allmark looked concerned, as the guard added that he had not received any information from the headmaster. Allmark defiantly declared, "I won't go back. I was invited by the headmaster Jorg to become a student here." The guard was startled, questioning how Allmark knew the headmaster's name. The guard eyed Allmark suspiciously. The guard relented, "Fine, I will guide you to the headmaster's office." He told Allmark to come with him, and they walked towards the academy. The guard pointed out the main building of Nork Magic Academy. He explained that elementary students would study there for 3 years. Allmark, visibly impressed, said, "That's amazing." He added, "I have never seen anything like this before." The guard commented that it would be great if Allmark could study there too. As they ascended the stairs, the guard explained that the building served as both the main school and living quarters for elementary students, and also housed the principal's office. Allmark looked around the grand interior as they walked. They continued down a vast, arched hallway. The guard led Allmark to a grand, ornate door, announcing, "This is the principal's office." Allmark looked up as the guard reached for the door handle. Before they could enter, the guard informed Allmark, "Your sword, sorry, but I'll have to take custody of it." Allmark, understanding, replied, "Ah, yes," and started to pass his sword to the guard. The guard visibly strained under its unexpected weight, exclaiming, "Ah, what is this?" The guard found the sword surprisingly heavy, while Allmark watched him. The guard knocked on the principal's door, announcing Allmark's presence. Upon being invited in, the guard opened the door, saying, "Excuse me," as Allmark peeked from behind him. Inside the book-filled office, the guard announced, "This is the boy." Allmark was met by Headmaster Jorg, an elderly man with a long, braided white beard, seated at his desk. Jorg introduced himself, "I am the Headmaster Jorg, and you are?" The guard interjected, "Sir, he was at the main gate." Allmark recalled a traveling magician once asking him what he thought the spirit of wisdom would look like. The guard apologized to Jorg for the interruption. The guard explained his reasoning. It seemed like he knew the name of the headmaster, so. Allmark then formally introduced himself, "My name is Allmark, Headmaster Jorg." Jorg recognized the name, connecting Allmark to Vice Captain Reyes of the Black Wolf Cavalry. The guard was visibly shocked by the mention of Black Wolf Reyes. Upon hearing Allmark's full name and connection to Reyes, Jorg slammed his hands on the desk in shock. Jorg exclaimed, "I can't believe it. Are you truly Reyes Dono's son, Allmark?" Allmark confirmed his identity, adding, "Yes, my father told me that he once helped you in the past." Jorg dismissed the guard, who replied, "Yes, sir," and prepared to leave. He then turned to Allmark, saying, "Allmark-kun, come closer and show me your face more clearly." Allmark stepped forward as requested. Jorg affirmed, "If it's true that you're the son of Reyes Dono from the Black Wolf Cavalry, then you must truly be Allmark." Jorg began to rapidly fire questions at Allmark, Why are you 2 years late, but aren't you already 11, and what are those clothes? Jorg also wondered about Allmark's father, Ray's, questioning if he was with Allmark. Allmark, with a gentle smile, responded, I can't answer so many questions all at once. Jorg paused, realizing he had overwhelmed the boy. Jorg acknowledged his haste, saying, That's how it is, I'm sorry. He then requested, Then please let me ask one more question. Jorg looked troubled as he prepared to ask his question. Jorg inquired, How is the Black Wolf Cavalry? Is the war still going on? Allmark confirmed, Yes, according to my father it has even gotten worse. Jorg lamented the situation, calling it a sad thing. He elaborated that the coming battle against the Abyss King would require all their strength, prompting Allmark to question Abyss King. Shaking off his distress, Jorg said, No, don't mind me, but now I know that you are truly Allmark. Jorg looked at Allmark with a gentle expression and praised him, You've grown up quite splendid. Allmark gratefully replied, Thank you very much. Jorg addressed Allmark, Allmark-kun, may I ask one more question? Allmark permitted him, Yes, go ahead. Meanwhile, the dismissed guard waited outside, still burdened by Allmark's incredibly heavy sword, wondering when they would be finished. Jorg continued, If you have experience fighting in the north, you must have heard of this name at least once. He named the group the Gilfin Magic Defense Corps. Allmark confirmed, Yes, I have. Jorg described them as a unique group among the numerous defense corps in the north. Jorg explained that after a famed sorcerer's success, many southern magicians, including academy graduates, rushed north, but most disappeared due to the harshness of the north's cold and combat. Allmark, however, recalled that some, like Gilfin, had indeed succeeded in the north. Jorg added that while most students are from the north and return there to fight, the academy is unwilling to allow more misuse of magic from the south. Allmark asked, What are you trying to say? Jorg explained, In recent years, we have basically not allowed students from the north to enroll. You can think of it as a sort of entrance exam. Jorg then posed a critical question, So let me ask you, what do you plan to do after learning magic here? He continued intensely, Will you, like Gilfin, return to the north and use your power? Allmark paused, considering his answer. Allmark firmly stated, I will also return to the north. Jorg was surprised by this declaration, especially after Allmark mentioned his journey. Allmark recalled, I have seen the prosperous lives in the Central Plains and peaceful countries in the south. Jorg pressed him, Why is it only the north? I want to know that. Allmark clenched his fist with determination, adding his conviction to bring peace to the north, stating, God lives for the people. Allmark reiterated his resolve, I will return to the north, in order to make that a reality. Hearing Allmark's unwavering conviction, Jorg's expression softened into a thoughtful smile. With a warm smile, Jorg formally welcomed him. Allmark, welcome to the Nork Magic Academy. Jorg, the headmaster, formally welcomed the newcomer to the Nork Magic Academy. The boy Allmark stood silently, taking in the greeting. Suddenly, the door opened and Jeed entered, offering an apology. Allmark was visibly startled by Jeed's abrupt entrance. Jeed chuckled, remarking to Allmark that he'd never seen the headmaster in such a panic. He commented that Allmark must be quite the guy. He then introduced himself as Jeed, explaining that the headmaster had asked him to take care of Allmark and would bring him to the school building the next morning, adding it was nice to meet him. Allmark formally introduced himself. The two shook hands, exchanging pleasantries. Jeed then offered to return Allmark's sword, admitting it was too heavy for him. Allmark accepted his sword back with a simple thanks. Jeed expressed admiration that Allmark could carry such a heavy weapon. Jeed and Allmark were at a desk, presumably handling enrollment procedures. As they left the office, Jeed announced that the procedure was finished. Allmark thanked Jeed for his hard work. Jeed pointed towards the dorms but then added a caveat. He informed Allmark that before going to the dorm, there was something he must do, and Allmark asked what it was. Jeed looked at Allmark with a sympathetic expression, remarking that the poor thing had lost his common sense due to his harsh journey. He then bluntly stated that Allmark currently smelled like a fish left in the sun for 2 days. Jeed led Allmark to a well area, likely for him to wash up. Jeed apologized for keeping Allmark waiting. He then instructed Allmark to wear the uniform upon arrival at the dorm, as he wouldn't be able to attend class in his current state. Allmark looked a bit sheepish, acknowledging the state of his clothes. Jeed seemed to notice Allmark's discomfort and apologized. Jeed mentioned a rumor he'd heard. He shared that people from the north were said to be all barbaric and rough, to which Allmark quietly responded that it wasn't really like that. Allmark clarified that there are only a few who enjoy killing. Jeed then remarked that it was quite far to the dormitory. Allmark acknowledged this and Jeed offered him something. Jeed offered Allmark his cape. Allmark was surprised by the gesture, exclaiming that the cape Jeed offered was actually very nice. Jeed, pleased, told him it suited him well and suggested he wear it while they walked. Allmark gratefully accepted with a thank you. As they continued, Jeed seemed to ponder something about Allmark, perhaps his keen observation skills likening him to an eagle. Jeed commented that Allmark was a mercenary. Yet Jeed sensed a kind of noble aura about him which puzzled Allmark. The spires of the academy buildings could be seen in the distance. Noting it was still a little farther to the dorms, Jeed asked Allmark if he wanted to take a break. Allmark looked a bit puzzled by Jeed's earlier comment. Jeed remarked with understanding that Allmark had walked all the way from the northern continent on foot. After a while longer walking through the forest, Jeed announced that they had finally arrived. Allmark looked up as they reached their destination. Allmark was visibly astonished by the sight of a grand, manor-like building that served as the dormitory. Jeed asked if he was surprised and Allmark admitted he was. Jeed explained that the dormitory was built based on the design of the vacation home of the Galai Kingdom's king. Jeed informed Allmark that around 100 elementary students lived in the four-floored mansion, though Allmark noted it didn't sound full at all. Allmark commented that it felt rather empty. Allmark wondered if he would be living there too. Jeed confirmed that, of course, all the elementary students were living there. Jeed clarified that everyone was currently at the main building attending classes, which was why it was so quiet. Jeed suggested they start by greeting the superintendent, and Allmark agreed. Jeed described the superintendent as a bit noisy. However, he also assured Allmark that she was a good person. They arrived at a door labeled Manager's Office. Jeed prepared to knock, mentioning that Ms. Maya should have received a message about their arrival during the enrollment process. Jeed advised Allmark that there was no need to knock as the door was always open, urging him to enter quickly. Allmark agreed to go in. Jeed opened the door for Allmark. Allmark stepped into an empty-looking room, feeling puzzled. He then noticed a rocking chair moving by itself, realizing with some surprise that even the caretaker at Nork Academy could use invisibility magic. Allmark was startled. Suddenly, Maya, the superintendent, appeared before him. Jeed greeted Maya and introduced Allmark, explaining he would be joining them from that day. Allmark, recovering from his surprise, politely bowed and greeted Maya. Maya, busy with her knitting, curtly dismissed any elaborate stories. She stated that he would live there until graduating from the elementary department, so he shouldn't cry for his mother's milk. He was to eat in the school cafeteria twice a day, morning and evening, or she would clean up his mess, and any food complaints should go to the head chef. She also warned him not to complain about a small room or hard bed, despite his well-bred appearance in the cloak. Maya reminded Allmark to keep in mind that there are 100 students living there. Maya informed Jeed that Allmark's room was 31 on the third floor, but Jeed, looking surprised, recalled hearing it was room 341. Maya, unconcerned, conceded that if Jeed said so, it must be true. She then handed over the key to room 341, asking if Allmark had any other questions. Allmark confirmed he had none at the moment. The key was clearly labeled 341. Jeed then bid Maya farewell and they prepared to leave, with Jeed prompting Allmark to follow. Allmark hesitated for a moment before departing, prompting Jeed to ask what was wrong. Allmark, clutching the cape, reiterated that he wasn't a privileged kid. As they walked, Jeed cheerfully reminded Allmark that the room was on the third floor and asked if he found the cape to be good quality. He then mused affirmatively about the kind of fuss Maya would make if she saw what was under his cape. They continued on their way. Allmark trailed his hand along the ornate banister as they ascended the stairs. Jeed unlocked the door to room 341. He announced to Allmark that this was his room. The room was modestly furnished with a bed, a dresser, and a window. Jeed explained that while other rooms were shared by 2 people, Allmark would have this one to himself. He clarified that Allmark would be spending the rest of the year in this room alone. Allmark thought the room was nice and had no problems with it. Jeed, observing Allmark by the window, questioned if his only luggage was the sword, remarking that even someone from a poor family should have more belongings. Allmark insisted that this was enough for now. He then thanked Jeed for the cloak, stating it was a lifesaver. Jeed mentioned he would bring Allmark's uniform later. He advised Allmark to take off his current clothes, as the smell might transfer to the bed. Allmark agreed and began to remove his shirt, startling Jeed with his sudden movement. Jeed was taken aback by what he saw. He realized he hadn't gotten a proper look at Allmark when he washed at the well. Allmark had impressive muscles and a nasty scar on his chest. Jeed thought to himself that Allmark must have endured a harsh journey. When Allmark noticed Jeed staring and questioned him, Jeed apologized for his surprise. He then told Allmark he would bring some food and advised him to rest. Jeed added that he would bring the uniform then. As Jeed was leaving, he explained that the noise outside was everyone returning because it was almost dinner time. Jeed further explained that they all ate together, so he was heading to the cafeteria. After Jeed left, Allmark went to the window and looked down at the students gathering below. Watching the students from his window, Allmark hoped he could make friends. He recalled seeing similar scenes of children joking and returning from school in the South, reflecting on how strange it was to now consider himself one of them. He felt he had truly arrived after a long journey. For Allmark, this marked the end of much pain and suffering, and the start of a new life and new experiences at the Nork Academy of Magic. In the cold north, a fierce battle raged. Their heavy boots pounded the earth as they advanced. Soldiers charged forward with battle cries. They advanced under a determined leader's command. Suddenly, the charging soldiers, including a young Allmark, found themselves ensnared, their legs mysteriously bound. As they struggled, unable to move, they cried out in shock and frustration. A formidable enemy force appeared in the distance. The enemy was led by an imposing armored knight. The enemy knight ruthlessly ordered his troops to kill them all. Trapped and helpless, young Allmark watched in horror. He desperately shouted, "Move, damn it," while another soldier cried for help. Allmark jolted awake in bed, startled by the vivid nightmare. He sat up, disoriented. He clutched his chest as the remnants of the dream lingered. Falling to the floor with a thud, he slowly oriented himself, remembering, that's right, this place is the Nork Academy of Magic. Still shaken, Allmark sat up. He reached for his sword, the nightmare vivid in his mind. That dream, he thought, was one of my past experiences. He remembered the terrifying Iron Knight of the Zale's Interceptor mercenaries, and how, when they were pinned down, his father's unit had saved them. Allmark recalled the grass that had wrapped around their feet. It was a form of magic. His father, who never liked using magic on battlefields, had warned him sternly after that incident, with Maya also present. "Listen closely," his father had said. "If you ever see someone with a staff in battle, you have to cut them down as soon as you can." The memory made Allmark grip his sword tighter. Allmark drew his sword. He recalled that when his father first gave him a pendant, he initially wore it around his neck, but fearing he might lose it, he decided to keep it safe inside his scabbard. Holding the pendant, he thought, "It's where I keep my sword. If I ever lose it, that's when I die." He clutched his father's longsword and his mother's pendant. These were items he felt had protected him his entire life. Tears welling in his eyes, he whispered, "I made it, father, mother." He sat on his bed, overcome with emotion. Jeed entered the room with a cheerful good morning. He paused upon seeing Allmark with his sword, quipping about the serious atmosphere and his own safety. Allmark greeted him as Mr. Zeed. Jeed, presenting breakfast, explained that starting that night, Allmark would eat in the cafeteria with everyone else, making this his last meal in the room. Allmark noted the good smell of the food. Jeed encouraged him to dig in. Allmark began to eat. After finishing his meal and thanking Jeed, Allmark expressed his desire to wash his face and fix his hair for his first day, asking where he could get water. Jeed acknowledged this and mentioned a dormitory washroom but suggested an easier option. He pointed to an option outside the window. As Allmark prepared to head out, Jeed reminded him, "Wait, I brought your uniform, change into that." Dressed in his new uniform, Allmark made his way towards the sounds of chatter. He wondered if it was the cafeteria. Peeking in, he saw a bustling room full of students, though he briefly imagined himself fitting in and eating happily with others. He hesitated at the door, chuckling nervously to himself, as if they'll just accept me. Deciding against the cafeteria for now, Allmark headed to the well Jeed had pointed out. He was surprised to find someone already there, a girl with long dark hair, Julia Kugan. She greeted him. Upon learning his name and that he'd arrived yesterday, she identified him. Allmark was surprised she knew he was the transfer student. Julia explained that everyone was talking about him, as there hadn't been a transfer student in decades. Julia Kugan admitted that everyone had been anticipating someone amazing, but Allmark seemed quite normal, to which he apologized for any disappointment. After washing his face, Allmark formally introduced himself again and asked for her name. "I'm Julia Kugan," she replied. Allmark, drying his face, then observed, "It looks like everyone is eating, but are you okay?" Julia explained it was fine to eat later, and Allmark wondered if she'd be scolded. She mentioned that Maya-san would make a fuss, but was usually only around early. Noticing his still disheveled hair, Allmark asked if she was done. Julia, however, curtly suggested he ask someone else if he had more questions. She departed with a brief thank you. As Allmark watched her go, someone unexpectedly patted his hair from behind. When Allmark returned to his room, Jeed welcomed him back. Jeed commented on his amazing sword, though admitting he didn't know much about them. Allmark explained it had suffered abuse on his journey and was a gift from his father, unsure if it was special. Jeed remarked on its sturdy appearance. Noticing Allmark seemed tired, Jeed asked if anything had happened. Allmark then mentioned, "Well, I met a girl downstairs," piquing Jeed's curiosity. Allmark revealed the girl's name was Julia Kugan. Jeed winced, acknowledging Julia, she was a bit tough, wasn't she? Allmark agreed. Jeed chuckled, understanding that Allmark hadn't met the Academy's grand expectations. "So the first girl you met was Julia. What a disaster," Jeed lamented, wishing Allmark had encountered someone gentler like Wendy. Just as Allmark asked who Wendy was, the sound of bells rang out, causing Jeed to exclaim in alarm. Jeed urgently tells Allmark that it's late, and he needs to change into his uniform quickly, as they must go to the school building. Allmark acknowledges and hastily accepts the uniform. Allmark, now in his uniform, is called by Jeed. Jeed continues to hurry him along. They rush off towards the school building. Allmark remembered that when he was in the north, his perception of magicians was quite negative. His father had described them as a bunch of nasty people. So when his father, Reyes, told him he would eventually learn magic, Allmark was shocked. He had taught himself to use a sword, thinking perhaps his father would change his mind. At the time, Allmark couldn't imagine a life without being a mercenary. However, Reyes never changed his stance, and the day before Allmark left, his father shared the whole story with him. It was then that Allmark decided to stop being a mercenary. While Allmark had always wanted to be a mercenary, he wanted to make his father happy even more. He wanted his father to be proud of him. He also didn't want his father to think he was afraid of magic. Allmark reflects that he is the son of a brave mercenary and wanted to prove his own bravery to everyone. However, his perception of magic changed. He recognized that magic was just a small part of a vast world. He realized that the magic of the North was not like the magic from the South, as it was deeply rooted in the people's lives. Now he has moved on, and his new goal is to bring magic to the North to help people. Jeed calls out to Allmark to come along. Allmark responds affirmatively and runs to catch up. Allmark, with newfound determination, looks ahead. Jeed compliments Allmark on his uniform, and Allmark declares that he is going to become a magician, thanking Jeed for the compliment. As they walk through a sun-dappled forest, Jeed expresses his excitement. Jeed notes it's Allmark's first time attending a school. Jeed is sure that it will be fun. Allmark, however, seems lost in thought. Startled, Allmark lets out a small sound as Jeed questions him. Jeed notices his pensive expression and asks Allmark what's wrong. Jeed observes that Allmark looks like he's thinking about something. Jeed sheepishly admits it was obvious Allmark was preoccupied. He then hesitantly tells Allmark that he doesn't want to say something like this. Jeed expresses concern that Allmark's father's job might not be well received at the academy. Allmark confirms Jeed is referring to his father being a mercenary. Jeed explains that there hasn't been a war in the region for 100 years, with current battles only being against monsters. This leads some people to look down on mercenaries, treating them like savages. Jeed quickly apologizes, acknowledging his words might be rude. Jeed clarifies that while not everyone holds such views, there is a tendency, particularly concerning mercenaries. Allmark interjects, stating that while Jeed's observation might hold some truth, the people there, including Jeed himself, don't understand the full situation regarding mercenary groups from the south. A common misconception is that people from the north are simply killing each other without reason. Allmark listens silently for a moment. Allmark reflects that Jeed is right. During his travels in the south, he encountered people who acted just as described. They believed themselves completely removed from war. They viewed those who engage in it as foolish barbarians. Allmark himself does not want war either, but to adopt such a mindset would be problematic for him. It would betray his own way of life. Despite the potential difficulties, Allmark internally affirms, "But I'm still the son of the brave mercenary race." Meanwhile, Jeed appears troubled. Jeed reflects on how Headmaster Jorg has given him a cruel task. Jeed continues to ponder the situation, recognizing that hiding Allmark's father's occupation is a heavy burden for an 11-year-old. Revealing the truth would likely lead to scorn from others. If that were the only issue, it would be fine, but the academy is a royal institution. No matter how much they say they don't care about origin, given the current situation in the north and the state of graduates from there are complexities. Admitting to being a mercenary son would require immense bravery. Even Allmark's official documents list his father's occupation as blacksmith. Jeed acknowledges Allmark's unhappiness with this, noting that still, not even aristocrats from the north are being accepted into the academy. Jeed warns Allmark that if he chooses to reveal his father's true occupation, he will face significant hardship at the academy. Allmark listens intently. A flashback shows Reyes advising a young Allmark to use his own judgment. Reyes told him to think for himself about what he should do and how to do it, without relying on him. Allmark recalls his father's words. Returning to the present, Allmark declares to Jeed that he is proud to be his father's son, but he will not tolerate anyone mocking him. Allmark acknowledges that during his journey, he learned he cannot simply act on emotion. Allmark silently apologizes to his father, feeling sorry. Jeed understands Allmark's decision. He then informs Jeed that he will not speak about his father. Jeed apologizes for pressing the matter. He then announces they are almost there and motions for them to continue. They arrive at the impressive school entrance. A woman, Fia, stands nearby, and Jeed asks if she is Miss Fior, Allmark's homeroom teacher. Jeed seems pleased by this. Miss Fior turns and greets them. She confirms Allmark's identity. Miss Fior introduces herself as the teacher for the class he will be transferring to. Allmark offers a slight bow in greeting as Miss Fior smiles. Jeed tells Miss Fior he will leave Allmark in her care. Miss Fior thanks Jeed for his efforts and tells him not to worry. Jeed tells Allmark to come to the gate if he ever needs help. Allmark thanks Jeed for everything, shaking his hand. Miss Fior then tells Allmark their classroom is on the 3rd floor and they should go. She explains that she will briefly tell him about the class he will be joining as they walk. As they walk, Miss Fior explains that the elementary division is a 3-year program, with each grade having one class of about 15 students. During his time there, Allmark will learn basic general education alongside basic magic techniques. She adds that by the 3rd year, everyone typically has a certain mastery of magic, but advises him not to rush. Miss Fior mentions hearing that Allmark has a wonderful talent for magic, and assures him he will definitely be able to use it. She encourages him to work on it carefully, and Allmark agrees. As they proceeded, Fia cheerfully explained that Allmark's presence would bring the class total to 16, making it easier to form pairs, and she hoped he would quickly find a friend. They soon stopped before a doorway. Fia gestured, indicating this was his classroom. Allmark paused, a hint of nervousness on his face. He then reached for the door handle. Allmark pushed open the classroom door with a slight creak, stepping inside to survey the room and his new classmates, who were already seated at their desks. Inside, various students were already settled at their desks. One student with light, somewhat wavy hair looked down pensively. Kaugan Layla, with her distinctive long dark hair, rested her chin on her hand, looking thoughtful. Shifei Torque sat with an intense expression, his dark spiky hair prominent. Meanwhile, Muzin, with his cheerful demeanor and fluffy dark hair, offered a gentle smile from his desk. Allmark stood beside Fia, taking in the classroom. Fia then stepped forward to address the students, saying good morning and stating her intent to introduce the transfer student. She continued, explaining that from today, Allmark would become the 16th member of their class and introduced him as Allmark Kun. Finally, she encouraged everyone to get along, as the students observed their new classmate. The teacher, Fia, announced to the class that Allmark was now the 16th member and encouraged everyone to get along. Allmark felt the intense gaze of his new classmates. Meanwhile, Norish excitedly spotted Julia across the classroom. He scanned the room, wondering where his seat might be. As Allmark prepared to speak, Wendy observed him with a smile. Fia prompted Allmark to introduce himself. Allmark stated, "I am Allmark, coming from the kingdom of Arneti." He humbly requested they take care of him. He privately resolved not to lie about his origins in the Northern Kingdom. Fia then explained Allmark's late enrollment due to personal circumstances and asked for the class's support. Wendy asked Fia about Allmark's seat. Fia directed him to sit next to Wendy. Wendy greeted Allmark warmly and he responded in kind. With Allmark seated, Fia announced the start of the lesson. Fia asked students to open their textbooks. Noticing Allmark didn't have one, Wendy kindly offered to share. Wendy showed him her Introduction to Magic textbook, which Allmark gratefully accepted. Fia's lesson covered the lore of their world, including the Great Four, 8 beings, and 16 lesser beings. After Fia concluded the class for the day, Allmark felt somewhat lost by the dense information. He decided he would need to ask for clarification later. As the day ended, a group of students including Muzin, Nelson, Norish, and Lilte approached Allmark, remarking that it was getting dark. Norish eagerly questioned Allmark about his late arrival, his lack of a last name, his father's profession, and the location of Arnetti. Allmark explained he was a commoner, his father a traveling blacksmith, and that Arnetti was deep in the north. Muzin then asked just how far north it was. Allmark confirmed it was even further north than the Forda kingdom, much to Muzin's surprise. Nelson confirmed that Arnetti was past Chuhara and Forda. Norish marveled at the distance, beyond the Manoba Strait. Wendy asked Allmark what he made as a blacksmith, and he replied, things like swords. This interested Nelson and Lilte. Norish then asked how Allmark had traveled to the academy, and he confirmed he came alone. Nelson and Norish were shocked that Allmark traveled alone from so far. Allmark deflected their surprise by asking them to tell him about themselves. Wendy readily agreed to introduce everyone. She gestured to Muzin, who introduced himself as being from a western village of the Gala kingdom, the son of a woodcutter, and greeted Allmark. Next, Wendy introduced Nelson, whose father was a knight's attendant in the kingdom of Mikes. Nelson also greeted Allmark warmly. Wendy introduced Lilte, whose parents were musicians, and Norish, her roommate from Lang Kingdom. Norish greeted Allmark. Muzin then enthusiastically introduced Wendy Bahab, from a prominent noble family. Wendy was embarrassed, insisting it was an exaggeration. As Muzin was about to point out someone else, Shife Torque interrupted sternly, asking how long they planned to fool around. Shife Torque demanded the group move. Wendy explained they were introducing Allmark, while Nelson quickly silenced a startled Muzin. Torque callously stated that while their friendship games were fine, they shouldn't inconvenience the nobles. Wendy argued that Torque's classes would also be delayed. Torque remained dismissive, leaving Allmark to wonder what he meant by move. Wendy informed Allmark that practical magic class was next, and he wondered if it was in a different location. Torque confronted Allmark. When Allmark asked if latecomers should already know spells, Torque dismissed him as an amateur. Allmark admitted he couldn't use any magic, prompting Torque to scoff about commoners. Torque declared Allmark a burden who would be ridiculed. As Torque and his friends departed, Allmark wondered who he was. Muzin identified the boy as Torque Seife, a noble son from Galai Kingdom. He was known for flaunting his status. Muzin further explained that Torque was talented in both magic and martial arts, making him difficult to challenge. Allmark questioned the mention of martial arts, and Nelson confirmed it was part of the curriculum, with Muzin adding Torque was second strongest in class. Surprised, Allmark asked who was first, and Muzin named Wallace the class representative. Wendy affirmed Wallace's strength and urged them to head to class. The students arrived at the magic practice area. The students settled in, some chattering amongst themselves. A stern-looking instructor, Professor Ilmes, stepped forward to begin the lesson. He instructed each student to light a lamp using only their magic power, without the aid of a wand. The students began the exercise. Lilte focused intently. Muzin successfully lit his lamp. Professor Ilmes observed this, noting the magical glow. He mused that while northern magicians were often self-taught, the Academy's methods produced a more refined technique. Nelson and Jeed also succeeded in lighting their lamps, prompting Professor Ilmes to consider them magical geniuses and prodigies suitable for the Academy. After addressing other students, Professor Ilmes approached Allmark. Acknowledging he knew Allmark's story, he offered extra lessons after school. Allmark accepted the offer with surprised gratitude. Professor Ilmes clapped, signaling the end of the exercise. He then criticized Wendy's poor concentration. He suggested Allmark's presence might be the cause, and admonished both Wendy and Layla for being too focused on not embarrassing themselves. Muzin then announced it was time to move on to training with wands, and Norish instructed everyone to get one. The students gathered around a pile of practice staffs. Allmark asked Wendy what they would do next. Nelson speculated it would be wind magic or stone carving, depending on Professor Ilmes' mood. Wendy then clarified that for the day, they would be doing stone carving and should prepare some stones. A pile of large stones was presented, leaving Allmark to ponder what magical stone carving entailed. Allmark recalled a street performance where an old man would seemingly split a stone with a wooden staff. And the stone would split right in two, he remembered. He had always dismissed it as some kind of trick, but now the magic practice began. Layla Cowgan effortlessly cleaved her stone with a sharp crack. Allmark noted the speed of some students. Nelson pointed out that others, like Muzin, found it challenging. Having observed enough, Allmark felt a surge of determination. Layla, reflecting on her success, stated she would achieve her goal today. As Allmark began his attempt, Fia and Wallace watched, with Wallace initially wondering what Allmark was doing as it did not seem like he was doing anything at all. Suddenly, Allmark's focus sharpened. To their surprise, he began carving intricate patterns into the stone. Fia remarked to Wallace that even just splitting the stone was a tough task, yet Allmark was employing even more advanced techniques, reminding Wallace not to lose his own focus. Wallace, impressed, acknowledged Allmark's skill. Shife Torque approached Allmark, calling him newcomer. Allmark turned, asking what Torque wanted. Torque, pointing to Allmark's unused staff and stone, questioned why he wasn't using them. He then asked if Allmark even knew how to perform the basic task. Allmark admitted he didn't, prompting Torque to sigh and say he supposed he would have to teach someone like Allmark. Torque began his instruction. The first thing you need to do is close your eyes and take a deep breath. Feel the magic power within your body. Allmark, confused, asked how he was supposed to feel the magic power. Torque, exasperated, questioned if Allmark really knew nothing. Nearby, Muzan continued to struggle with his own stone, exclaiming if it had any magic. Torque then told Allmark he hoped he did possess magic, because if not, Allmark should just get out of there. I don't know if you have magic power within you, Torque continued. If you do, you should be able to feel it. He instructed Allmark to imagine gathering magic power at the tip of the staff, and while exhaling quickly, to visualize that power flowing through the staff into the stone. Here, look, Torque said to Allmark. With a swift motion, Torque demonstrated, splitting the stone cleanly. It's easy, right? Torque asked casually. Give it a try. Allmark thought to himself that just watching was a bit boring, and this was a good opportunity. He acknowledged that while Torque might have some flaws, he probably wasn't lying about the technique. The magic power within me, Allmark mused. I don't know what it's like, but from what I learned, I should feel it flowing in my body. He concentrated, trying to feel the power gather from his hands, through his fingers, and into the staff. Then, Allmark brought the staff down on the stone. The stone remained completely intact. Torque burst into laughter, exclaiming, "This is no good. I've never seen someone who can't even break a single fragment off, even though it's their first time." He declared that Allmark had no talent and would probably leave within a year without advancing, suggesting it would be better to give up now. Torque finished with a glare, "Because you are in the way." Allmark quietly processed this, thinking, "It seems like you view me as an enemy." Allmark asked Torque, "Is it because you're a noble and I'm not that you treat me like an enemy?" Torque admitted that might be one of the reasons, stating that no one even knew Allmark's background, and it was annoying to have such people in the academy. "You are an eyesore," Torque added. Allmark quietly wondered if he and Torque were really that different. "What?" Torque snapped. "Do you think you are better than me? Of course I am. Don't compare me to someone like you who is a nobody," Torque declared. "I am Torque of the Seife family." He then berated Allmark about his intentions and late arrival, dismissing his personal circumstances. Torque continued, referencing how everyone else arrived at 9 years old and questioning Allmark's difficulty separating from his parents. Allmark quietly confirmed it had been tough. Torque scoffed at such naive thoughts, predicting Allmark would fall behind and leave. "The time spent on you is a waste," Torque declared, turning away, "for me at least." Allmark clenched his fist, feeling like he was about to snap. Allmark mused that it felt like Torque just wanted to provoke him, but compared to what he had seen on northern battlefields, Torque was almost too nice. Norish then approached, expressing gratitude that Torque had taught Allmark, and declared that was enough for the day. Allmark, looking at the successful magic of others, admitted it was the first time he had seen such amazing magic. Wendy smiled and reassured him that he too would soon be able to do it. She then remembered teacher Ilmes had called him for after-school lessons and offered her help anytime. Muzan then rushed over, calling out Morgan, as he also offered to help Allmark and Wendy. Allmark thanked them both, promising to work hard and catch up quickly. They headed out of the magic practice area. Behind them, the remnants of the stone-splitting exercise, including successfully split stones, lay scattered. Later, during lunch, Nelson called out to Allmark. Allmark confirmed he ate fast. Nelson and Muzan approached, commenting on how quickly Allmark was eating and wondering if he was that hungry. Nelson offered Allmark some bread, which he accepted. Allmark thought he might need to reconsider and adjust his eating habits to fit in. After afternoon classes ended, Allmark went to meet his teacher. Teacher Ilmes was waiting and Allmark acknowledged him. Ilmes stated, "But I don't think we'll need to use this place yet." Teacher Ilmes suggested, "Let's change the location." Once they were in a different room, Ilmes began by asking Allmark if he believed a staff or robe was necessary to use magic. Allmark reasoned that since both teachers and students wore robes and all magicians carried a staff, it must be necessary for magic. "I see," then, Ilmes responded, confirming Allmark had seen and knew about magicians. Allmark replied he had seen them during his journey to the academy. "All right then, Allmark," Teacher Ilmes said, "in this place forget everything you know about magicians." Allmark was taken aback. Ilmes explained that what Allmark had seen was merely the surface appearance of magicians. He then asked if Allmark knew another name for magicians, those who wield invisible power. Ilmes emphasized that the essence of a magician lies not in their appearance but in what cannot be seen, and if Allmark was going to study at the academy, he must understand that. He must start from there. Ilmes explained that the magic he would teach spanned a wide range, and Allmark wouldn't need a staff or robe to master them. Allmark then questioned why all magicians carry staffs and robes. Allmark thought that Ilmes seemed smart and had already picked up a lot about him. Ilmes explained that while words might be easy, they could hinder understanding for someone as smart as Allmark, instructing him to close his eyes. "All magic begins with meditation," Ilmes stated. Ilmes advised Allmark to start by properly feeling the magical power within him, noting that while elementary students meditate daily to refine their power, Allmark, as a third year, couldn't afford to take his time. However, Ilmes had high expectations for Allmark's talent. "Now let's begin," Ilmes concluded. After his lesson, Allmark expressed his gratitude. He emerged to find it was completely dark. "Hey Allmark, there you are," a voice called. It was Muzan and Nelson. Allmark asked what was up. Nelson explained they were all waiting, and Muzin added that Wendy was worried Allmark might get lost on his first time returning to the dorm. Muzin further explained that it got dark and Lily got scared, so the girls Norish and Lilte went home first, asking the boys to look for Allmark because it was his first day. Nelson chimed in that they also did self-training after school in the forest, so they were there anyway. Allmark thanked them for waiting for so long. Muzin declared he was hungry and suggested they head back. The three boys walked together through the twilight. Muzin and Nelson recounted the day's events, with Muzin noting Sierra's excitement and Nelson describing Reed's actions. Allmark, meanwhile, was concerned that despite being introduced to everyone, he couldn't yet match names to faces and resolved to memorize them quickly. Nelson pointed out to Allmark that their room was next to his. They bid each other good night, looking forward to seeing each other tomorrow. Allmark focused on sensing the magic power dwelling within himself. He initially imagined it like blood flowing through his body, but now it felt like something gathered in the very core of his body. It felt like a big mass of flowing water, though he wasn't sure if this sensation was correct. However, teacher Ilmes had said that the exact feeling wasn't important right now. During his long journey to the academy, he had often talked with himself. This current feeling of introspection was somewhat similar. The busy days were set to begin from the next day. Allmark tried his best to understand the confusing classes. Wendy kindly offered to teach him, but Allmark felt he couldn't just rely on her. He spent his free time studying at the library. Wendy and the others, including Fia, said they would gladly help, sometimes assisting him the whole time during it. After school, he meditated as teacher Ilmes had advised, feeling that meditating alone helped him more currently, so he declined their offers. He wasn't at a stage where he needed assistance, but promised to ask for their help in the future. And just like that, the days passed in the blink of an eye. One day before his first day off at the academy, an incident occurred. Students generally had one day off every 10 days. The lesson for the day began with light magic. While another student successfully conjured light, Allmark reflected that he hadn't learned anything apart from meditation yet. However, according to Professor Ilmes, the essence of magic was simply imagination. Allmark wondered how he could imagine the magical power within him and turn it into actual magic, considering if he could visualize it as a small light in his hand. He tried to imagine a small light, but it was no good. He felt he just couldn't do it. Next, teacher Ilmes announced they would do wind magic, instructing them to gently create a very light breeze and then strengthen it to the point where it could strongly shake a small tree. Allmark watched intently. On the other hand, Norish, who struggled with stone carving, seemed to find this exercise suited her better. Torque didn't seem to be able to control his wind properly, making Allmark realize that everyone had different strengths. While Muzin was struggling even with the wind, Wendy and Layla seemed to excel at all kinds of magic. Even though their personalities were opposites, Wendy and Layla's talent seemed to be the same. Allmark wondered what Wallace was doing. He realized he hadn't spoken a single word to him yet, and Wallace seemed to be doing something else than the others. It felt like Wallace was intentionally avoiding him, as there was always a reason for him to leave right when Allmark tried to start a conversation. But it seemed like Wallace was heavily relied on by the others, and they appeared to admire him greatly. Muzin mentioned hearing that Wallace was the son of a noble from Morgan, though Allmark hadn't asked for his last name. Allmark acknowledged he was also very focused on keeping up with class, so he couldn't focus on others too much. But feeling like he could sense his magical power a lot better now, Allmark decided he would try light magic once again. He imagined a small flame reciting just above his hand, feeling like magic was gathering there. He then focused on materializing it as a small flame. It worked. From a distance, Muzin wondered what Professor Ilmes was doing, as he seemed busy with something. This was the first magic that Allmark had casted. Suddenly, the flame began to grow and swirl erratically. Allmark, surprised, questioned what was happening as the flame intensified. Allmark's magic suddenly erupted into a massive pillar of fire, shocking everyone. Torque yelled, demanding to know what on earth Allmark was doing, as Wendy and the others looked on in terror, Wendy calling out his name. The students watched in awe and concern as the massive flame raged. Muzin exclaimed about the intense heat, wondering if Allmark was burning. As the fire started weakening, his classmates anxiously asked if Allmark was okay. Teacher Ilmes watched with a subtle, knowing expression. His look seemed to convey, "I told you so."